Hello everyone, in this video we will be solving problem number 1790. Check if one string swap can make strings equal. We'll be given two strings s1 and s2 of equal length. A string swap is an operation where you choose two indices in a string, not necessarily different, and swap the characters in that indices. Return true if it is possible to make that swap and make the two strings equal. Else return false. We can only do exactly one swap in a string. So if you look at example number 1, we have bank as S1 and KANB as our second. So if we replace the first index with the last one in S2, we will get bank, which is equal to S1. In example number 2, we have S1 as attack, S2 as defend. There is no way swapping one character would make the two strings equal, hence we are returning false. This is an easy problem. We only need to figure out how to break this down into smaller pieces to solve it. The two important information that is given to us in the input is we have to make at most one string swap and exactly one. So we cannot do the swap on S1 as well as on S2. And at most one swap, meaning it is also possible that the inputs are already equal, so we may not even need to do any swapping. Let's use the first example that is given to us to understand the problem. Because we need to do one swap at max, we need to monitor or look at two characters. So let's call it C1 and C2. We'll start an iterator to iterate through all the characters in the string. We don't need to worry about the length because it is given that S1 and S2 are of equal length. My pointer pointing at 0. Let's compare the corresponding characters at that position. So S1 of I, is it equal to S2 of I? No, this will be yes. So I'm looking at B and K. It is not equal. So it go into the no condition and then we'll save the corresponding characters in C1 and C2. So my C1 will become B, C2 will become K. We need both because the next time we end up with the same kind of a situation, we need to compare both of the values. So we have recorded this information. The total diff that we have identified is only 1 because this is the only first character that we have checked. Now let's increment our pointer to 1. Now the characters are A and A, both are equal, so it's going to yes condition. We don't need to do anything over here. Now incrementing the pointer to 2, nothing to do in the yes part. Now let's increment it to 3. So now on the left hand side we have K, on the right hand side we have B. So because we already have a value saved, we need to now do a cross comparison. So the value corresponding to K or coming from the S1 needs to be compared against C2, and the one that is coming from S2 needs to be compared against C1. If the two characters are equal, meaning we found a good swapping pair, so we'll just increment this diff to 2. As long as the diff is 2, one swap will fix it. Okay. But let's say if this condition was not met, then we can't do the swap, so we'll simply return false. At the end, we'll check the diff should be equal to 0 or 2. We'll get a 0 when all the characters are equal, or we'll get 2 when there are only two characters that are different, which can be fixed by doing the swap. In all other case, we'll be returning false. Our time complexity is O of n, where n is the number of characters in the string, and space complexity is O of 1, as we are not actually maintaining anything besides the two characters that needs to be swapped. I hope you were able to understand this explanation. Let me show you how we can implement this using C#. Here's the solution in C#. In the main method, we start by initializing the return variable, the diff, and the two characters, S1C and S2C. We start by checking the corresponding value of the character at that position in S1 and S2. If the values do not match, we increment the diff and then see if the diff is 1. If it is 1, we have only found one pair that does not match, so we save the value in S1C and S2C. If we continue the iteration and we encounter one more pair that value doesn't match, the diff will become 2 because we are incrementing it here, and if it is so, we check the new values. So the new value at S2 and S1 position should be matching to the previous saved value. If it does, then we set the return value to true, and if it does not, then we don't need to proceed with the iteration and simply set the return value to false and break out of the loop. If the diff is greater than 2, which means there are more than one pair that needs to be swapped or that do not match, so we simply set the return value to false and break out of the loop. At the end, we also do an additional check to make sure if the diff is 0. This is to cover the case where the entire string of S1 and S2 are same. So in that case, diff will never be incremented. Hence, we are setting the return value to true and then returning it on line 62. I hope you were able to understand this explanation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. The link to the source code will be there in the description below. Feel free to check that out, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.